All right, welcome back. Hope you're all having a great Memorial Day weekend. Today, we're continuing our review of our next RBT exam, where we're going through 10 more questions together and breaking them down. If you're looking for our study materials, please check out rbtexamreview.com. We offer 3 full practice exams, a task list study guide, combo pack, which includes everything. It's our best deal. And we also have our competency study guide as well. Be sure to check out all those materials. Like and subscribe if you are enjoying our videos. It really helps. Questions, comments, please let us know. Congratulations to everyone who recently passed. When you pass, let us know so we can give you a shout out. Other than that, let's keep working hard, keep studying hard, get to our questions. Question 1. Which of the following is the best example of maintaining client dignity? Client dignity is an ethical issue, and it's arguably the most important ethical issue. Client dignity means treating clients regardless of why we are there, with respect, with privacy, and with the same appreciation you would have for anybody else, disability or not. We need to maintain client dignity at all times. So this question is asking us, what is the best example of doing this? A, allowing the client to always choose what they would like to eat for lunch. Is choice good? Yes, choice is good. People have the right to choose, right? Maintaining client dignity involves offering choices. However, this answer choice is implying this client always gets to choose what they want to eat for lunch. Now think about a typically developing 5-year-old. Would you always let a typically developing 5-year-old choose what they want for lunch? Well, no. What if they start saying, I want cake every day for lunch? Not going to fly, right? Choice is good. Unlimited choice is not realistic and is not maintaining client dignity. B, involving the client in treatment planning with your supervisor. Should the client be involved with planning? Well, absolutely. Okay. The client is the one receiving services. The client, this is who we're working for. They should absolutely, to the fullest extent, have a say in what that treatment looks like. Okay. We don't exclude them from planning. B, absolutely maintains client dignity. Always read all of your answer choices. Let's look at C, discussing your client with your friend who works at a different autism center. C is violating what? We're violating their privacy, right? If I'm going around and talking to people who don't know the client, who aren't on the client's team, and don't have consent to receive information, I am violating HIPAA and I am violating privacy laws, and I am not maintaining client dignity. And then D, posting about your client's success on social media. This is a newer issue, right? Because of how popular social media is now. And with their updated ethical codes, the BACB clarified that we should not post about clients on social media. There's different rules for business-based social media, strictly business-based, but you should never post about your clients on personal social media, no matter what. Which of the following is the best example of maintaining client dignity? It's going to be B, involving the client in treatment planning with your supervisor. Your client is a 5-year-old girl with an intellectual disability. The client will often stick their fingers near electrical sockets. Typically, this is for attention. She has not stuck her finger inside the socket yet, but it is possible that one day she will. What will be the best and quickest intervention to use for this behavior? I really like this question. It tests your ability to not only analyze the question, but to think deeply about the question. What do we know? We know the client sticks their fingers near electrical sockets and for attention. Immediately, you're thinking, all right, well, if I want to put a behavior for attention on extinction, I'm not giving it attention, right? But if we read on, it says she has not stuck her finger inside the socket yet, which is great, but it is possible that one day she will. That changes everything. Now this is a real safety issue, right? This is a real problem if our client might stick their finger in an electrical socket. The last thing we want to do is ignore this behavior. Why? Well, it's a safety issue. Just because they're doing it for attention, right, doesn't always mean we have to resort to pure extinction like that, right? And now, as an RBT, you'll be working with your supervisor for treatment planning, okay? But in general, would we ever start ignoring a potential safety issue from a client? Absolutely not, right? So what will be the best and quickest intervention to use for this behavior? A, put the behavior on extinction. Do not provide attention to the client. Well, we just talked about why this might not be the best idea. If it's possible that one day the client will stick their fingers in the electrical socket, we cannot ignore that. B, reinforce the client for sticking their fingers near the electrical socket, but not inside the electrical socket. Still, that's not great. We don't want them anywhere near the electrical socket. Not inside is what we want, right? But we don't want them close to it. What if they accidentally slip up one day? We shouldn't be reinforcing, again, potentially threatening and dangerous behaviors. C, plug all electrical sockets and block all attempts at touching electrical sockets. Yes, okay. When things are dangerous, it's a crisis, or it's life-threatening, we need to start blocking that, right? Immediately, we should say, okay, until we can get a great intervention or find the perfect intervention here, we need to act immediately to prevent any harm. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to prevent all attempts at going near this electrical socket. We're going to plug all the sockets and start blocking. Is it the best intervention? Maybe, maybe not. But we're doing our number one priority again, maintaining client dignity and preventing harm to our client. We shall do no harm. And then D, explain to the client how dangerous it is to touch electrical sockets. Maybe, what if the client doesn't have a strong receptive vocabulary? They're not going to understand what we're saying. It's not going to do us any good. Best course of action here immediately, to take immediate action and the quickest intervention, is to plug all electrical sockets and block all attempts at touching electrical sockets. At least in the meantime, we know the client won't hurt themselves while we develop another intervention. Which of the following alters the value of a consequence? Easy question. This is a definition question. This is why I stress the importance of fluency. And people who pass will tell you being fluent is very important. When you're fluent, the terms come naturally. You don't have to think too much about it. And when you see something like, which of the following alters the value of a consequence, immediately you should know it's a motivating operation. What is a discriminative stimuli? A discriminative stimuli signals something is available, right? Behaviors are reinforced in the presence of discriminative stimuli, but they don't alter the value, okay? What alters the value is our motivating operations. Clearly, a prompt doesn't alter the value of a consequence. It evokes a behavior. A reinforcer is the consequence, so it's not going to alter the value of itself. A motivating operation, an MO, is what alters the value of a consequence. That's what increases or decreases motivation. A new BCBA starts on a case that Brad has been working on for 6 months. The BCBA asks that Brad take baseline data on the client's ability to identify colors. Brad knows that the client mastered this skill 3 months ago. How should Brad respond? This is a communication question. As an RBT, are you a valued member of the team? Yes. If you ever feel like you aren't part of a team and you aren't valued, that's an issue. The BACB preaches open, clear communication, not only from supervisor to RBT, but from RBT to supervisor. Okay, you are in the right to give your opinion. In this case, a new BCBA starts on this case. They ask Brad to take baseline data on the client's ability to identify colors, but Brad, the RBT, knows they mastered this skill 3 months ago. What should Brad do in this situation? How should he respond? A, take the baseline data as requested by the BCBA. Okay, maybe, but what if the BCBA isn't even aware that they mastered this skill? Do you think the BCBA is going to want to waste time? Potentially, maybe the BCBA is genuinely curious about this baseline data, but Brad needs to at least bring it to their attention before we start spending time and resources on this intervention, okay? It's part of communication. B, tell the BCBA that the client has mastered the skill and attempt to show the data. Yes, okay? Once the BCBA says we want to take baseline on this skill, Brad simply needs to say, 3 months ago, we mastered the skill. Here's the data. From there, the BCBA might say, okay, great. Let's take baseline data anyway, for whatever reason. Or they might say, thanks for letting me know. Either way, Brad has kept a line of communication open. He's not wasting time and resources, okay, because he's drawing attention to something the BCBA might not know, right? He's being a team member. He's being part of a team. We have to collaborate. B is collaboration. A is just simple compliance. C, question whether the BCBA knows what they're doing. We should not do that. We still need to show respect, okay, for our team members. And then D, agree to take baseline data, but begin working on other unmastered skills. It is not Brad's decision to make. All Brad can do is draw attention to what he knows and then go from there. The best way to do that is going to be B, Tell the BCBA that the client has mastered the skill. Attempt to show the data. Whatever happens after that happens, but at least Brad has collaborated and he's communicated. Assume the target behavior is sitting in a chair. The client receives reinforcement after 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then 4 minutes. How would you write this reinforcement schedule? Immediately, what do we notice about when reinforcement is being delivered? We notice it's being delivered at different points. If we are delivering reinforcement at different time intervals or different response requirements, is that going to be a fixed schedule or a variable schedule? It's going to be a variable schedule, right? It's varying, it's an average. So we can eliminate C, FI2. Now we ask ourselves, are we dealing with time or responses? Well, we're dealing with time, right? 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. We can eliminate VR3, this ratio schedule. Leaves us with a VI3 minutes and a VI4 minutes. So now we need to do what? Well, a variable means an average. So we need to find the average of our reinforcement times. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 4 is 9. Divide by the total number of points. 9 divided by 3 is 3. How would you write the reinforcement schedule? You are reinforcing on a variable interval 3-minute schedule. Every 3 minutes, on average, the client receives reinforcement. If the client received reinforcement after 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and 3 minutes, this would be a fixed interval 3 minutes. Okay. Make sure you know the difference. Make sure you understand. Yes, variable means changing, but it also means average. Cam always struggles to start his reading assignment. Before intervening on this behavior, what is the most important thing we should do? Okay. Kind of an open-ended question, right? All we know is Cam struggles to start his reading assignment. Before intervening, what should we do? All right. So we need to do an assessment first, right? So we know we have different types of assessments, things like indirect assessments, direct assessments, and functional analysis. All these things make up our FBA, our functional behavior assessment. We have to do it when we get a brand new behavior or skill. We need to do a functional behavior assessment to start determining, okay, why is this occurring, right? Typically, we're going to start with interviews, right? Indirect behaviors, things like that, okay? So before intervening on his behavior, we should interview parents about this behavior and Cam's past behavior. This would be very helpful in knowing why does he struggle to start his reading assignment, right? B, identify and define what the behavior looks like. That's great, okay? But first, let's get a little more background. Let's do a full FBA on this procedure, okay? C, determine the function of the behavior. That's jumping way ahead, okay? That's going to be our last step in our FBA. And then design a punishment procedure. There's no reason to think we might need punishment yet. We still don't even know why the behavior is occurring, what the past looks like. We have no data, no indirect data, no direct data, anything. Before we intervene on this behavior, okay, before we start intervening at all, how about we do an indirect assessment and interview parents about this behavior and Cam's past behavior. All of the following are examples of discontinuous measurement, except for what? What kind of measurements do we have? We have continuous, which is duration, rate, frequency, latency, and IRT. We have discontinuous, which is momentary, whole, and partial. And then we have permanent product. Those are our 3 main umbrellas of measurement that we should know as RBTs. They're going to ask you a lot about measurement, about continuous measurement, discontinuous measurement. Why do we use them? When do we use them? When is a good situation? When is not a good situation? They're going to expect you to know the difference between continuous and discontinuous. Continuous, as we know, we are recording every instance of a behavior. Discontinuous, we're taking a time frame, a full time frame, and breaking it into a smaller interval. So which of the following are examples of discontinuous measurement? Is momentary time sampling discontinuous measurement? Yes. Discontinuous measurement is also known as interval recording and time sampling. It's another way you can remember it, okay? With momentary time sampling, whole interval recording, and partial interval recording, if we have a 3-hour session, we might only take data for 20 minutes. That's the idea of discontinuous measurement. What about permanent product? Permanent product exists in its own little bubble. Considering we aren't directly observing the client typically, right? We're looking at the product or what happens after the behavior. It's not necessarily discontinuous. If anything, it's continuous, but even then, right, it exists in its own little bubble, okay? All of the following are examples of discontinuous measurement, except for what? C, permanent product. Momentary time sampling, whole interval, and partial interval are all types of discontinuous measurement. Stimulus transfer control procedures often involve what? This is on the task list, and it gives people trouble. It sounds like a complicated intervention or technique. All we're doing with stimulus transfer control procedures, transferring the control from one SD to another or one stimulus to another. So think about our contingency, right? SD, response, consequence. Let's throw a prompt in there. We have SD, prompt, response, consequence. That prompt functions as a temporary SD. So now that behavior is under the control of the prompt. Well, we don't want that, right? We want the behavior under the control of the SD. What do we need to do? We need to transfer control from the prompt to the SD. How do we do that? Well, we have to get rid of that prompt. So, does stimulus transfer control procedures involve adding prompts? Absolutely not. Does it involve punishment? No, we're not trying to decrease the behavior. We're trying to change what evokes it. And what about non-contingent reinforcement? No, non-contingent reinforcement isn't actually transferring any control of anything. Stimulus transfer control procedures often involve fading prompts. We're taking our temporary SD, our prompt, fading it out until the real SD controls the behavior. Don't be worried about stimulus transfer control procedures. Just think about fading prompts, transferring control from SD to SD. Which of the following is not an unconditioned punisher? What do we mean? What do we mean by unconditioned? We mean primary, and we mean unlearned. Punishers that, no matter your learning history, can act as punishers. Think about unconditioned reinforcers. No matter your learning history, can act as reinforcement. Food and sleep and shelter and warmth and safety. These are all things, right? Unconditioned. Punisher, we're going the other way. If a punisher is going to decrease a behavior, right? Typically, unconditioned punishers involve things like pain and being uncomfortable. So here we go. Which of the following is not an unconditioned punisher? Pain is absolutely an unconditioned punisher, right? From the very day of our birth, we feel pain. Excessive heat, no matter how much you enjoy the heat, if it gets too hot, right, that will function as a punisher. Threats. Threats are not unconditioned. Threats don't even work on some people, right? Threats involve a series of learning histories, right? SDs and punishment in the presence of SDs to develop these threats as conditioned punishers. They're learned. Intense electrical shock, again, you might be able to withhold a certain amount of shock. In the end, though, intense electrical shock is going to be unconditioned. You don't need to learn this is a punisher, okay? That pain is enough signal as it is, okay? So which of the following is not an unconditioned punisher? Threats, they are conditioned, they are secondary, they are learned. And then finally, an RBT must receive supervision for blank of their hours spent providing services. You have to be aware of supervision. It's the RBT's responsibility to maintain supervision. The board is cracking down on supervision now more than ever, so you have to know this. It's your responsibility. Now, we have 10, 15, and 5%, and then type option 4, which is clearly not the answer. This is a rote question. Sometimes we put these in here just so we know and we're familiar with it. Familiarity sometimes is everything, right? You might have not even known this. Hopefully you did, but you might have not known. An RBT must receive supervision for 5% of their hours spent providing services. Meaning, if you provide 100 hours in a month, right, you need 5% of those. If you provide 200 hours, 5%, okay? 5% is a flat, unchanging number for how much supervision you need each month. Okay, enjoy your Memorial Day. Check out rbtexamreview.com for all of our study materials, free practice exam, task list study guide, and the combo pack, which is our best deal. Back Wednesday with more RBT practice questions. Please like and subscribe. Friday, Saturdays are BCB questions. So when you do pass your RBT exam, come back for our BCBA materials. Other than that, let's keep working hard, keep studying hard. See you soon.